Well, hello, everybody. And this, of course, is empowering democracy. Our topic for today is the big lie will persist, will persist unless dot, dot, dot. So, what's that about? You can take a big guess. Hello, Steve. How are you? Nice to see you this afternoon. So, there was this article that appeared in Truth Out, and I'm going to bring that up for you. Bonnie and I were just listening to
The Seekers.
a folk music mix which featured the Seekers. So I'm afraid the music of the Seekers is probably running around in my head right now. Right on the verge of being hummed. Da, da, da. I hope everybody has noticed that I've shaved since last night. I received a couple of comments about that. Anyway, the big lie will persist unless Trump is held accountable for January 6th. That is the title and the proposition of this post from Truth Out. And the post is by Mike Ludwig, who's a pretty long time writer for Truth Out. Does some pretty good stuff, but I admit that based on the topic, I thought this might be one by Marjorie Cohn, who is their best writer on legal matters. But anyway, it starts off. The House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol presented damning evidence on Thursday that Donald Trump knew he lost the 2020 election, but played a primary role in a premeditated and illegal plot to stay in power, including by summoning a massive mob of angry supporters to violently attack the Capitol when all else failed. The bipartisan committee voted unanimously to subpoena Trump for testimony about his actions leading up to and during the deadly chaos. The Select Committee went to great lengths in its latest televised hearing to shred Trump's potential legal defenses should he ultimately face indictment. Top staffers and Justice Department officials testified they repeatedly told Trump his claims of widespread voter fraud were bogus. But Trump continued to spread lies in the media while pressuring state and federal officials to commit electoral fraud behind closed doors. Plans to falsely declare victory if Joe Biden won the election were in the works long before Election Day, just as his advisor and propagandist Steve Bannon stated in leaked recordings. Yet millions of people continue to believe Trump's lies and tune into his cheerleaders across the right-wing media. Advocates say the myth that the 2020 election was, quote, stolen, unquote, will persist until Trump and his henchmen are held accountable for the plot to overturn the election and the events leading up to January 6th. The right-wing media system has followed along with this idea of blind loyalty to Trump. Anything that is negative about him is seen as off limits, unquote. Kristen Dorer, a managing editor at the media watchdog Right Wing Watch, told Truth Out. Any claim that Trump was acting in good faith, that he truly believed the election was stolen, and was simply making his case to the courts and the public, should be no match for the mountain of evidence revealed by the House Select Committee. For example, law enforcement and the Secret Service circulated intelligence memos warning before the riot that extremists were making calls to, quote, occupy federal buildings, unquote, invade the Capitol, and intimidate Congress. Trump sent his supporters marching toward the Capitol on January 6th anyway, after allegedly being told that many had arrived with guns and weapons. Lisa Gilbert, vice president of the watchdog group Public Citizen and co-chair of the Not Above the Law Coalition, which advocates for justice and accountability for January 6th, said the bipartisan select committee accomplished a, quote, Herculean feat, unquote. However, simply revealing the truth will not stop MAGA politicians from passing voter suppression laws, protect poll workers from ongoing harassment, or keep election deniers up and down the GOP ticket from winning midterm elections. Across the country, Trump-backed candidates won primary races by exploiting the myth of voter fraud, undermining public confidence in elections, and fortifying the, quote, big lie, unquote, in the minds of Republican voters. Quote, the attack on our country hasn't been punished. It's been rewarded, and this has to stop, unquote, Gilbert said in a statement after the hearing Thursday. Quote, thousands of pieces of evidence and testimony from Trump's own staffers and foot soldiers have clearly laid out, fact by fact, what only those closest to him knew to be true. Trump engaged in a criminal conspiracy, knowingly made false claims, including claiming victory in the election, and incited a violent attack on the Capitol in order to overturn the 2020 election. The committee's months-long investigation and blockbuster hearings have done little to shift public opinion. Trump's favorability rating has remained stable at roughly 41% for months. I just saw a new poll that seemed to indicate his favorability rating was at 44%. But despite news coverage of the January 6th hearings and other Trumpian scandals, a recent New York Times analysis of polling data found that the percentage of respondents who say Trump has not committed any serious crimes and was only exercising his right to contest election has remained virtually unchanged at 38% since the hearings began in July. This really mystifies me after the scandal over the classified documents that he took to Mar-a-Lago, the documents with the highest classification that's possible in the government. That's not a serious crime. Of course, we don't know all the contents of those documents at this point, but based on the type of documents and the subjects, what he did seems to me to be a serious crime, if only that. That's a serious crime. Conservative news outlets have few incentives. I'm sorry. I will silence my phone. There we go. Conservative news outlets have few incentives to cover the January 6th hearings and plenty of incentives to downplay or ignore them altogether. Fox News was famously punished by viewers for accurately covering election results that angered Trump, that likely caused ratings to dip, Doris said. pushing the network to indulge Trump's conspiracy theories for months, while quickly dismissed in the courts. Dozens of lawsuits filed by the Trump campaign provided an endless stream of headlines echoing Trump's false claims of voter fraud. At least two journalists resigned from Fox News in protest of lies about the election aired by far-right commentator Tucker Carlson. Tuck, quote, if you are not seeing any of this information, if you are not having your viewpoints challenged with facts that Trump planned for months to overturn the election and stay in power, then you can hold on to this false idea that the election was stolen from Trump, unquote, said Dora. And Dora also said Trump's celebrity status and cult following on the right has made pro-Trump media uniquely profitable, allowing the right-wing media ecosystem to expand during his time in office. However, right-wing publishers are not investing in reporters and fact-checkers. Extreme content attracts readers and viewers, and millions of people get their news through the lens of podcasts, live streams, tweets, and talk shows featuring conspiracy theorists and far-right pundits. The biggest moneymakers on Fox and elsewhere are people like Tucker Carlson, the people who are vehemently defending Trump, Dora said. We see that in all of these different far-right and right-wing media sources, and people are simply not getting the facts. They're not being challenged in their beliefs, and what they are saying are the same messages, the same fear-mongering, the same conspiracy theories repeated over and over again, unquote. Advocates say holding Trump accountable for lying to the public and allegedly breaking laws to stay in power could put a big dent in pro-Trump types of media narratives on the right. If Trump was compelled to defend himself in court or simply testify before the House Select Committee, it would make for much-watched television that could not be ignored. I'm not so sure about that. People who are religious about their commitments to certain attitudes, and beliefs, are very, very hard to shake. And the faith in Trump on the right is something like a religious faith. The minds of folks like that are closed. It's very, very hard to shake them with contrary beliefs and contrary statements. That's why Trump is expected to challenge the subpoena in court, cling to his hangers on the right-wing media at all costs. Quote, we cannot let people at the highest levels of power escape consequences for their action, Gilbert said. So there's a message there, and the message is they are very, very hard to shake. And if there is not very compelling events like the appearance of Trump before the committee or the appearance of Trump, in court, and the visibility of these things, of having Trump simply defend himself in court, then the narrative is going to persist. What I'd like to point to here is that even if those events do occur, it may still be very, very difficult to end the split we have in this country when it comes to reality. Not only with respect to the reality of the election, but with respect to the reality of various narratives and facts that come out of the Trumpist movement continuously. We see that people that have faith in that movement just simply deny what other people think of as the facts, as even freely available facts. I've had some encounters with Trumpists myself, and I know they live in a different world of what is fact and what is not fact. And even if we go forward, even if we have a trial, even if we have a conviction, even if we have imprisonment and barring Trump from any kind of public office for the duration, we are still going to have one hard time to banish the ideology of Trumpism from our political system. Okay, a case in point, of course, it was possible for the Argentinians to get rid of the Peronists finally after Perón died and his wife took over as president. She was eventually defeated in the 1974 election. But the political system in Argentina has not been able to get rid of the Peronists. They have been prominent in every election since then. I myself don't think the Peronistas are quite as religious as the Trumpists, but it does seem to me that they've become a permanent part of the Argentinian political system. And maybe the Trumpist movement here has gone far enough that even if Trump does go to jail, even if there is punishment for many of his followers, we may have an anti-constitutional movement that is a permanent feature, okay, of our political system. Okay. I can't say that for sure, but that's what happened, okay, in Argentina. And Trump has a similar level of popularity and commitment from his followers. It is very hard to try to deny this. So, there are, of course, there are very many people who believe, for a variety of reasons, that the system of elections we have is rigged. Certainly, there was plenty of evidence, simply plenty of evidence, that the primaries were rigged against Bernie Sanders, both in 2016 and 2020. It's not being ridiculous to believe that. There was the exit poll evidence, and of course, the usual evidence about how easy it is to fix the machines, to rig the machines.
We have a young town to bring it.
There was plenty of evidence in the Florida contest where Tim Canova ran against Debbie Wasserman Schultz for the second time in 2018. There was plenty of evidence of rigged machines there. So there are stories that have circulated that have substance that certain elections have been rigged to one extent or another. The primary elections in 2020 The Iowa primary was very suspect. The New Hampshire primary was suspect with respect to Buttigieg's totals. Uh, there was evidence there that at least in one type of voting machine they were using, that there was rigging going on. And in 2020, in many other primary states, uh, just apart from the voter suppression and apart from the gerrymandering, that uh, there was plenty of rigging of the machines themselves. Okay, that was going on. All you had to do to believe that was to look at the discrepancies between the exit polling and the final results. It seemed impossible in certain areas, well beyond what chance would show us. So it's possible that Trump is going to be indicted. It's possible that he is going to that he's going to prison. But there will still be plenty of doubters that the 2020 elections were rigged in some part. There'll be lots of stories of rigging circulating. Some will be made up, some will be not so made up, though the evidence for rigging may be circumstantial. We're going to hear a lot of stories. Even if Trump is convicted and he goes to jail, we are going to hear a lot of stories. I don't think there is any way, okay, of getting around that. So let's see if people have something to say about that. We have a few minutes. Sandy is here. Hi, Sandy. I'm going to remove the article so Sandy can see that I've shaved since last night. Steve Wolfbrent said, I'll have to watch later. I'm at work. Well, thank you for coming, Steve. That's quite all right. And there's Dolores. Hi, Dolores. Would everyone please like, share, and subscribe this? We have a long way to go. I'm not sure, mind you, that I'm ever going to monetize this channel with YouTube. But of course, I do have a Patreon account, and I do have a Buy Me a Coffee account. So from my point of view, these streams are already monetized, just not with the YouTube system. I don't know if I'll ever do that, okay, in YouTube. I'd like to get to the level where it would be my choice, which is to say 1,000 subscribers. But I'm not going to hold my breath for that. And I'm not at all sure that even if I were to be monetized, that it wouldn't be very soon until I was thrown out of the community for the things that I say. That's happened to plenty of people and continues to happen. So I'll have more to say about the big lie, okay, January 6th. the efforts against Trump. Later this afternoon, I'll be back with another stream on that subject. And later tonight, I'll be back with a stream about the Supreme Court and how we might be able to get around the Supreme Court on certain key issues. Specifically, I'll be discussing putting the Supreme Court in its place. There was a very good article by Jamel Bowie dealing with that. I'm going to go over that article, okay, and analyze it. I was pleased to see it, but in certain respects, I don't agree with it. And that's going to be the subject of our 9 o'clock show. So we have two more shows coming today. So I want to say goodbye for now, and I will see you a little later. Thank you for coming. I wish I had a little bit of exit music. Well, maybe later. Again, thank you for coming.